Catherine, you have a question? You can unmute yourself, please.
I'm wondering why I don't have video.
You don't have video because we don't have our video cameras turned on. We can't have anybody's cameras turned on in order to be able to record this and share it for the future. But as soon as I start sharing my screen, you're going to see everything that you need to see.
Thank you. I'm going to mute again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Kelly, you can go.
Okay, let me get my screen sharing going on.
So if everybody can see her screen, just do the hand raise really quick. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a while since we've done this. The holidays kind of prevented us from doing a lot of training because we just all got busy. But today we're going to kick it off again. If you have done this training before, I am doing just a repeat. This is the same thing I do every single time I teach this. Basically, what we do today is I teach you as much as I can the basics of ProStitcher, what you need to know. Okay, today we're going to go over what everything means on the screen. We're going to go over how to update your tablet if there's an update. And I'm going to try to also show y'all how to like transfer designs from your USB stick into this program too. And somebody's not muted, so make sure you're all muted, please. And thank you. Okay. So everyone should have also, when they signed up for this, been given a document they could print off. That's what I'm going to be teaching by. It's called Navigating the ProStitcher Tablet. If for some reason you didn't print it or you didn't get it, you can email me after this and I will email you that document. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is just understanding the tablet itself. Okay. So I always divide this tablet into 4 sections. The sections are the tabs that run across the top, all the way from File, all the way to this little eye with a circle around it, which stands for information. That's one section of this tablet. And you always start in a tab to do whatever you're going to do first before you go anywhere else. Then the next thing that we talk about is the ribbon. The ribbon runs from all the way from underneath the tabs from left to right, okay? So this whole row right here. Now this whole row right here, it changes depending upon what tab we are inside of, okay? So again, you go to the tabs and then you come to the ribbon area. Now, the next thing I want you to look at is over here to the right-hand side of the screen. This is your right sidebar. This also constantly changes depending on what tab you're in and what you have selected in the ribbon area, okay? So when we are doing things, we're always going to go tab, ribbon, and then right sidebar. And that's where we're always going to look for the next step that we need to do for whatever it is that we are trying to do at that time, okay? Then the other one is the toolbars on the left side of the screen, from undo, select, and up down here at horizontal and vertical. Those are your tools, okay? They stay on the screen all the time. They never disappear. They're a constant. So the toolbar and the tabs are always a constant on your screen. They never change. The variables on your screen is your ribbon area and your right sidebar. Now, before we go any further, I also want to talk about the bottom of your screen down here, okay? These 3 icons right here, which is select all, multi-select, and select none, are very important icons to understand. If we were to have multiple things on our screen, that's when we would use those. It also is how, if you have multiple things on your screen, to tell it what order to sew your objects out in, okay? So that's super, super important. This icon right here, now mine is all green because I'm in simulation mode because I'm on my computer and not actually on my machine. But this is an icon right here that's kind of important too. If this ever turns red, that means that your ProStitcher and your machine has lost communication with each other and they need to tell each other to start talking to one another again. So when this is red, your machine probably won't stitch when you tell it to on the tablet, things like that, okay? And we'll talk about how to tell them to start talking to one another again. One easy way of telling them to talk to one another is just to reboot your entire system. but there are other things you can do too. Okay, so we're going to get started with talking about what the tabs are. Okay, so when you're looking at the tabs, you have File. File is where you'll always select it, and when you select something, it turns green. Okay, so right now File is green, which means anything in the ribbon area is what you find in the File section. So we can pull in designs, we can pull in saved workspaces, and we can pull in saved areas that we have. This is also where we would actually save designs or close out our design or clear all. It's also very important that you know this is also where we come to update our ProStitcher. It's also where we go to shut down our ProStitcher. And I'm just going to real quickly tell you that the only proper way to shut down your tablet is to go to File, Shut Down, and select Shut Down again, and let the tablet turn off by itself. That is the recommended way to turn off your tablet. There are some exceptions to that. When your tablet is frozen and there's nothing you can do, you do have to just hold down the power button on your tablet and turn it off. But that's the only time that you would want to not do it the proper way of shutting down. And the only reason why we're not doing it the proper way is because it's impossible to do it the proper way if your screen is frozen. Okay, so again, the proper way to shut down your tablet is to go to File, Shut Down, and then select Shut Down again. Okay, now, do you see how when I just clicked out of that, my design went gray? That means right now it's not selected. So if I were to go into the ProStitcher tab to want to sew, my run button is grayed out because I have nothing selected to tell it to stitch. But as soon as I tap on that design and make it black again, now my run button is green. There are many times that people will post on Facebook or ask a question of why is my run button gray? That's one of the reasons why your run button could be gray. There are other reasons that we can talk about too.
Excuse me, Kelly.
Yes.
Catherine has a question.
Okay.
Catherine?
I'm so sorry to interrupt. And I might have missed this step. Is there supposed to be a video feed that we can see during this?
You should be able to see what my screen looks like on my computer. Do you see what looks like a tablet screen on your computer?
No, I don't. I just see a big KM in a circle.
Okay. Does anybody else see my tablet screen?
I do.
Okay, so Mario, do you know what could be wrong with her settings that she's not able to see my screen?
Catherine, try to log out and log back in again.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Kelly.
I hate technical stuff because I'm not smart when it comes to these computer crap things. So like when I can't hear or somebody can't see, I don't know what to do to help them, and it infuriates me. So I'm so sorry. I hope when she logs back in, she can see us. Or see my screen. Okay. So that's what you would find underneath the File tab. Now, if you go to the Edit, this is not one that you're going to use a lot until you get really advanced into doing like customized quilting. But this is just like on Microsoft Word where you have cut, copy, paste, duplicate. Those are all the options here. I actually will be honest with you, and I don't use these functions that often, but I have found times where I might need to. There is one thing under the edit screen that we might want to look at every once in a while, and that's the history tab. Sometimes if you see that your tablet's running slow or weird things are going on, you might want to come in here and just clear your history. And that just clears everything out so that there's nothing running in the background of this program to slow it down or bog it down, okay? Now, we also have a tab called Area. Area is what we would select when we're ready to set an area to tell it where to quilt a design. Now, there's three different options here. There is the rubber band area, there's the two-corner area, and the multi-point area, okay? The two-corner is what we would use when we're going to set up for an edge-to-edge design. A multi-point is what we're going to use when we're going to set up maybe a border or a certain block or certain areas of a quilt, but not a huge, big area like we do when we're doing an edge-to-edge quilting. Okay. Also, there is this thing called quilt space. I honestly do not use it, but let me explain it to you so that you know what it is. If you're coming from a different program and you've had computerized quilting before on in a different system and you're coming to ProStitcher, some systems have where you have to set up what they call, quote unquote, a safe space. And that's where you're showing your machine the max area that your machine can move inside your quilt frame area, okay? The quilting space is completely different than setting up a quilting area, okay? Again, I don't use this. This is for those that are used to that comfort zone of seeing a box on their screen that tells them this is the space that your machine can move on the frame right now. Okay. So let me click out of that. So if I were going to set up a edge-to-edge quilting, I would select the 2 corners. So I'm going to move my crosshair right now to the top left-hand corner of my quilt area and select 2 corner. And then when you're selecting the second corner, you come to the bottom right-hand side of your quilt area and you select that 2 corner again. What the key is to knowing when you set an area is that your crosshair or your needle, which is the same thing, has to be at the first point before you select 2 corner. Because as soon as you select 2 corner, it's registering where your needle is at. Okay. And again, let me stress this to you one more time in case you're brand new to ProStitcher. Your crosshair represents where your needle is at on your quilt. Okay. So that they are one and the same. That's something that some people have a hard concept of understanding. So just again, the crosshair is your needle. Now, this rubber band area, this is something that, again, you probably will not start using until you get very advanced and into a big time into custom quilting. Just to real quickly show you the reason why you might use this, I'm going to clear out my area and I'm going to bring in a design real quick. Let's see. I'm going to bring in this triangle design right here. Okay. Now, if I were to come up to area and select rubber band area, you're going to see that it just made that whole triangle an area by putting a pink box around the triangle. And what that does is it still will sew out that triangle, but it also is using that triangle as an area. So if I wanted to fill that triangle in with like a fill-in background design, let me find one real quick. I could take a design like this and I could select the select button and move that design on my screen into that triangle right there, okay? Now, since this triangle is a design, I could now come up to modify and select crop and select, hold on, I gotta move this little screen right here. Select outside and it creates, again, that triangle is a design. So now I told it to crop all of the design outside of my area. And that's when you would use the rubber band area, when you're wanting to take something that's pre-existing and turn it into an area. Now, rubber band area does not work on everything. Hold on, let me clear this out. If I were to bring in a different design that doesn't have straight edges like this apple core, and I were to select a rubber band area, it's not going to work the same because it also is making this an area, because what it does is it puts a rubber band around the object, and however that rubber band would lay with that object is how the area lays, okay? Again, this is something advanced, but I just wanted to, because I know that somebody's going to say, well, what is it? We're always going to get that question, so I wanted to quickly just show you what it actually does. But again, it's not something that we're going to do a lot of. Okay, so I'm going to clear this out and I'm going to bring in that design that I had originally on my screen. Somebody's not muted, just FYI. I can hear, like, it sounds like you're in a car almost. Okay, so here's my design. We were on the area tab, so now let's go to the modify tab and talk about it. The modify tab is where you're going to go anytime you want to change something about the design on your screen, okay? So you're going to see that right now with this design, I can rotate it, I can reposition it or move it from where it's at right now. I can resize it. I can use the crop feature, and I can swap the start and end point. But right now I cannot use align or skew. Align and skew has to have an area set to be able to use those two features, okay? So I'm going to set, again, a 2-corner area real quickly for us. And now I'm going to go back to that Modify tab. Now you can see that Align and Skew are where we can use them. We will go back and talk about some of these things in just a second, okay? So let's go to the Repeat tab now. The Repeat tab has 2 options underneath it. It has Basic and it has Wrap. Repeat is where we're going to create an edge-to-edge, and we're going to put as many repeats of a edge-to-edge design as we can to fill in our area. Real quickly, so that I can show you this, I'm going to change my area because, again, this is in simulation mode, so I can't really be on a frame and do the actual size of my quilt area. So I'm going to just plug it in real quick right here. We're going to pretend like I have a 45 by 60 inch quilt. There's my whole quilt. There's my design right now. So if I were to go back to the Repeat tab, which is what we were talking about, and I were to stay on Basic, I could come over here to the left-hand side and select Fill, and it's going to put as many repeats as it can inside my area. Now, we're going to get more in depth to this. I'm just really quickly trying to go through the tabs, and then we're going to come back and talk about everything underneath them. But this is what the Repeat tab does. There's also the Wrap feature. The Wrap feature is what you use when you need to offset every other row of your quilting, such as clamshells or maybe a Baptist fan, something like that. Or maybe a design that doesn't nest very well, so we need to manipulate the rows between each other so that we can make them nest a little bit better, okay? And again, we're going to come back and talk about all of this. Now, the ProStitcher tab is a tab that we're always going to go to when we're ready to stitch out our design. I always have this corny saying that when you're ready to stitch like a pro, you go and select the ProStitcher tab. Now, when you're in the ProStitcher tab, there's a few things that you have to have selected in order for you to be able to quilt. You have to have quilt selected underneath the ProStitcher tab, and you have to have stitch over here selected. If stitch is not selected, your machine is only going to trace the design. It is not going to stitch out the design. Once you have those 2 things selected, your run button should be green for you to be able to go ahead and start sewing out that design. If it's not, you can always come up here to this Run Status tab, and it will tell you why it can't stitch. And I'm going to just give you a good example right now. Let's see if okay, it doesn't do it there. Hold on. Let me do this. Go here. See how my run button is grayed out? If I select the run status, it'll say quilt panel is not open. Select quilt from the ribbon area. So it's telling you, hey, you don't have the right thing highlighted in green underneath the ProStitcher tab. You need to come over here and highlight the quilt button so that your run button will turn green for you. Okay. Now, this View tab, it is a very important tab that usually does not get talked about very often. This View tab is where you select the things you want to be able to see on your screen. So if you want to be able to see the design, you have to have design selected. Right now, it's not selected, and all I can see is my start and end points and my jump stitches. Okay, I've had people call before and say, I know I have a design selected because it tells me up at the top of my screen that it says repeat just line circle, but I can't see my design. And it's just them being new to this and not knowing, and they've tried to come around and play and learn their tablet, and they've deselected the design feature under the views. You can see what I have selected. This is what I have selected on my machine also. I have the scroll where I can scroll on the edges of my screen right here, selected to show. I have transparency, which transparency means that if I were to take this design and it was so big that it wasn't inside the screen, I can actually see it in the background behind my tabs and stuff. Okay, that's all that transparency means. The area, of course, is your pink box. If you don't have it selected, it's not going to show you where your area is at. So you need to always have that selected. The jumps are these little dotted lines where I can see that when it finishes this row and stops right here, the machine is going to want to move to this next start point right here. If you don't like that, you can deselect it, but when you deselect it, it also deselects all your other stops and starts, and you only see the first start of your design and the last stop of your design. So I like to have that showing so that I can see where all the starts and stops are in my design. Now, if you don't have this start and end, it's not going to show you the start of your pattern or the very end of your pattern. So you need to always have that highlighted too, okay? Now, the things that I don't have highlighted is the ruler, which puts a ruler marking right here, and these represent inches, okay? The grid, which puts a grid in your background, to me, that is very distracting, and I don't like having excess stuff on my screen, so I don't have those things on there. And then there's the bounds. The bounds is showing you the outermost edges of your design. Sometimes is exactly the same as your area. In this case right now, with how I have it set up, it is only showing me the bounds of the design, and then my pink box is showing me the area, and they are different because I have not filled in my area yet. I don't like having bounds selected because sometimes people get confused, especially when they're beginners, at what the area is versus the bounds, and there's really not a lot of needs to know where your bounds are at, so I don't have it selected. The rubber band will show you a rubber band area of your design at all times if you were to want to rubber band that area. Again, it's just one more thing that's distracting, so I do not have it selected. The design points now, it does something completely different. The design point shows you how it's actually digitized by segments of stitching. Now, that's about as basic as I can describe this for you because I'm not a digitizer. I don't create designs. So I'm just trying to explain it to you the best that I know. But if I were to zoom in, you can see the little dotted lines of how it's been digitized. There's a dot here, a bunch of dots. They're not necessarily all spaced correctly. It's just the design points of this design, okay? I don't ever have that showing either because I don't like the way it looks on my screen. It's just more distracting. Okay, so now we're going to go to the last tab right here, and that's the tools. The tools, all this is basically letting you select your ProStitcher Designer or either your Art and Stitch, whichever program you have. Now, you would have to register it on your tablet if you decide to use it. Just remember, you only get 2 registrations. So if you have it already downloaded to your computer, that's 1 registration. And if you download it on your tablet, that's your 2nd registration. So if your computer were to ever die and you need to re-register this, you're going to have to actually contact ProStitcher Designer, which is not Janome. ProStitcher Designer, you can contact them by going to ProStitcher.com. You'd have to contact them and say you need a new registration because you have a new computer. So I recommend only registering it on your computer and not using it through your tablet, because when you use it through your tablet, you're going to want to take your tablet off your machine so that you can go sit down and play with it. And we don't really want you to constantly take your tablet off of your machine and play with it, because you'll notice if you do try to do that, it is very hard to get on and off. And because that hub or that tablet holder holds that tablet so tightly, you don't want to accidentally damage your tablet from taking it on and off. Okay, so again, I don't recommend registering your ProStitcher Designer on your tablet. Just do it on your desktop computer. Now, I said that's the last tab. I lied. There's 2 more tabs over here on the right-hand side of your screen. This one is your settings. It is super duper important to know about your settings icon, okay, or your settings tab. In your settings is where you can come and change your stitches per inch. You can change your tie-offs. You can change if you want it to pull up your bobbin thread and move over. It tells you your stitch stat, which right now it's telling me when I select stitch stat that it's going to take me 19 minutes and 54 seconds to stitch out this whole quilt that I have in the background. But the most important button is this advanced button, okay? This advanced button is where sometimes people will accidentally have their simulation turned on. And remember, if you have it turned on, it's green on your screen right here. And they won't be able to the machine won't ever sew because it's in simulation mode. If you've accidentally turned on your simulation mode, you need to come in here and deselect it like this, and then completely reboot your system. If you do not reboot your system, it does not actually turn your simulation off, okay? Super important. The other really important thing under the advanced icon is, let's say down here at the bottom of your screen, your machine and your communication symbol down here has turned red, which means your machine and your ProStitcher are no longer talking to one another. If that is the case, instead of having to reboot your system to try to make them start talking again, you can come to advanced and communication, and you can tell it over here to reconnect your machine. And when you reconnect your machine, your ProStitcher and your machine now are no longer mad at each other, and they decided to talk to each other again. Okay, so that is the other thing that I was telling y'all, I would show y'all a little bit earlier, is that if this is red down here again, you can come to your settings, advanced communication, and reconnect machine, and they will start talking to each other again. Okay. Now, this other tab is your information button. And when you select that, you can come over here to About, and it will tell you what version of ProStitcher you are running. Right now, the most current version is the one that ends in 537. If you do not have the most current version, I highly recommend you go to ProStitcher.com and download it. I am going to show you in a little bit later how to do that. Do not be scared to download this version. This version has been out for over a year. Okay, so there's not bugs in it. Someone that just came on needs to mute yourself, please, and thank you. So again, if you do not have the latest version, you could be having things happen to your tablet that doesn't make sense, and it might be just because you need to update your tablet. So please make sure that you have it updated. When you do update your tablet, you have to completely reboot it after you do an update, okay? Okay, so that is your information button. This help button right here is actually your manual for your ProStitcher program. You can go to this index and you can find out what you want to learn about, and you can click on that, and it's going to take you, if you double click on it, it's going to take you to explain to you what cropping designs is, okay? So that's where you can go and get your manual. You also can print all that out, but it's a lot of pages to print out. Now, while we're still on this, you see this little blue question mark right here? This blue question mark means that you could select that and then come over here and select anything you don't know what it does, and it tells you what that feature does on your tablet, okay? So it's also a cool, quick way, a quick reference of finding out what something does on your screen that you might not understand. Now, right now, on my screen, I have an S with where the motors lock and unlock usually icon is at, and that means that I'm in simulation mode right now, which means my machine will not stitch because it's in simulation mode. Also, I know I'm in simulation mode because my crosshair is green and not orange. When our crosshair is orange, that means our gears are engaged and it's ready to track anywhere we move our needle to know where to sew at or know where to put a design in at. Okay, so typically over here, you will have a motors lock or unlock icon. Okay, so that's what all the tabs are. Now we're going to go into a little bit more information of what we do with these tabs and how we navigate and create things. Okay. So I'm going to quickly clear everything out that I have on here, and I want to bring this design back in, and I want to talk about this for just a second. Right now, the biggest size throat space you should have if you have a Janome Longarm is a 20-inch throat, okay? When you are trying to figure out how big of a design you can quilt, you always, for safety reasons, want to say your throat space and subtract 6 inches, and you should know to never set a quilt area bigger than that depth. So if you have a Quiltmaker Pro 20, you never want to have a design that is bigger than 20 minus 6, which is 14 inches, okay? If you have an 18-inch throat, you want to say you can only set an area or do a design that's no bigger than 12 inches. If you have a 16-inch, then that would be 10 inches. So right now, if I were to want to quilt this particular design on my quilt, the first thing I needed to look at after I've pulled that design in is what its actual size is. And this design size is 17 inches wide and 17 inches tall. That is way too big for any of our machines to sew it out at its original size. So if I were to want to use this design, I would need to first shrink the size of it before I do anything else, okay? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to the Modify tab because I need to change something about this design and select Resize in the ribbon area. And then come over here to my right sidebar, and I'm going to want to select this lock button. What this lock button does is it locks the proportions so that if I were to change the size of this design based on its height, it will automatically shrink the width to what it also needs to be. So I always lock the proportions when I'm doing this. Then I can actually click in this box down here where it will bring up a keypad for me, and I can change the size of the design itself. Now, I just changed this design to 12 inches tall, and it changed the width also to 12 inches, okay? What I need to do now before I do anything else is baseline this change that I've made. So I'm going to come over here to my toolbars on the left-hand side of my screen and select baseline. Baseline is something very important to know about. Baseline is there for you to tell this computer to, at this moment right here and now, to remember this size of the design and not its original size anymore. Now, it's not actually saving it to where if I were to shut down and turn this back on, it remembers that, but it's remembering it for the here and now right now. There are many times that you need to use baseline while you're designing something. One of those is when we use the crop feature. When you're going to use the crop feature, you always baseline before you crop and after you crop, okay? So let me real quickly create an area again so that we can turn this design into an edge to edge.
Hey, Kelly,
Yes,
Brenda has a question. Brenda, you
okay.
want to mute yourself, please?
Kelly, where was the baseline at, hon? I missed it. I was writing notes.
It's on the toolbars on the left-hand side of your screen. Right now it's grayed out on mine because I just selected it.
I see it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I
And
was
remember,
overlooking it.
okay, and just remember, these tools over here are always on your screen. They never disappear or go away, okay? So again, when we are about to set an area, the first thing we do is put our needle in the top left-hand corner. I put it a little bit outside the actual edge of my quilt. And once we have put our needle there, which is also our crosshairs, we will select two corner. That just registered that first area marking for me. Then I'm going to move my crosshair as far to the bottom right as I can and select two corner again. And now it has set my area. Now, because I am on my tablet, on my computer, desktop computer, and I'm using simulation mode, I can't get an accurate area by just doing that. So I'm going to quickly come in here and change my area so that it is the size of an actual quilt. The only thing you normally would have to do is change your height. Your width should be accurate because you've gone from one side of your quilt to the other side of your quilt, but you can't accurately give it the height without actually clicking into your box and changing it. So once you've set a two-corner area, you're going to always have to come into your width and change it to the actual length of your quilt, okay? So we are doing a baby quilt. It's 45 by 60. And again, remember, I've already changed the size of my design. If I have not remembered if I've done that, I can always come over here to design, and it's going to tell me the size of that repeat right now. It also will tell me up here at the top of my screen. At the top of my screen, it tells me what design I have picked and the size of that design right now. Okay. Now, once we have one design in there, and it is an edge-to-edge design or a P-to-P design, point-to-point, then we can easily do repeats of it. So I'm going to go to the repeat tab right here. I'm going to stay under basic. I'm going to come over here to the right side. And the first thing I always do is select fill. What fill does is it fills in as many repeats as it can without going outside your area. So on this particular design, it's done an excellent job of filling in my area from top to bottom, but not from side to side. So what I'm going to do from here is go to the repeat option over here that's green already for me. And where it says it has given me 3 repeats, I'm going to hit this plus sign and give myself 4 repeats. Now, when I've done that, it has now gone outside my area, which I don't want anything outside my area. Now, there's 2 different ways you can fix this. You can select the stretch icon, and what it does is it squishes it into your area. I'm going to undo that because you can see that when I stretched it, because it has circles, it turned my circles into ovals. They're not real circles anymore, and I do not like that. So I'm going to undo what I just did using the stretch. Now my circles are circles again, and this is where I would come in and use the crop feature. Again, because we don't want all of these stitching lines outside of our pink box, I'm going to come over here and first baseline my design. Then I'm going to go to the Modify tab, and I'm going to go to Crop, and I'm going to select Crop all the stitches outside my area and the edges of my quilt. That way it gives me less starts and stops. And then I would definitely baseline again so that it remembers this. And now, truly and honestly, I've done everything that I might need to do with this particular design to start stitching it. So the very last thing I always do is go to File and Save and Selected, and I save this design somewhere in my folders. Now, I personally have a folder that I created named Kelley, and I will come in here and select that folder. I will click down here where the name of the design is. I will clear it out, and I will name it. Usually I name it the name of, like if I'm quilting this for someone, I'll name it their name and save it. But you might want to save it as sample 1. You can save it for whatever you want to. Once you've selected save, it's going to say, do you want to override this existing file because I already had a file named that? I'm going to say yes. And now it has saved that design. The importance of saving this is because if anything were to happen, like your screen freeze on you, or you have to turn it off for the day because you couldn't finish it because you had to have an emergency and go pick your kid up from school or whatever, you can come back in here and retrieve this design later to sew it out and not have to recreate it. Okay, so this is how you create an edge-to-edge design. Okay, I kind of have skipped over on my pages and skipped over some stuff, but it's just the way it happened for us today. I'm going to go back and cover everything that's in our handout. So this is the way you would create this particular edge-to-edge design. And again, I used the crop feature because I did not want to use the stretch feature and make my circles no longer circles. Now, I'm going to now just close out the design I have, but leave my area. And I'm going to go and select a different edge-to-edge design where we have to do a couple of different things in the editing mode or the modify mode. So give me just a second here to select the one I want to get. Oh, not that. I'm going to go to continuous lines. All continuous lines are edge-to-edge designs. And I am going to go find Field of Flowers. Now, just so you know, your designs are always in alphabetical order. So I can quickly just go down to the F's to find that design, select it, and then select Open, and it's pulled that design in for me. Now, again, the first thing I always look at is what is the size of this design. And right now I can see that the width is 11.6 inches and the height is 9 inches. Now, if I were quilting this for someone and I was doing it for money, so somebody pays me to quilt their quilts for them, I am actually going to change the size of this design and make it larger so that it takes less, it does not become such a dense design quilting it, because if it's super dense, it'll take longer for it to sew out. So I'm going to go to the Modify tab and go to the Resize feature in the ribbon area. I'm going to make sure over here on the right-hand side that lock is selected, and I'm basing it off of the height. I'm going to click in my box right here, and I'm going to change the size of that to 12 inches. Okay. Now, when I change it to 12 inches, if I were to click on width, it's changed my width to 15.46, and that is completely fine. The height is what matters. Since I changed the size of that, I'm also going to come over here to baseline and select baseline so that it remembers this size of my design and not the original size. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to come to the repeat tab and I'm going to put in as many repeats as I can by selecting the fill option. Now, I automatically see some things I need to fix. First of all, it hasn't filled in on the left and right side of my design. And if you look at where I have my little zoom button right here, my little icon, my little zoom icon on my screen where my cursor is, you can see that there is a distinct, noticeable gap in between my first row and my second row and my third row. And I want to fix that. I do not like that look. I do not want people to be able to see where my rows are divided at. So I'm going to zoom into this area where the rows meet, and I'm going to come over here to vertical under my repeats, and I'm going to come here to the gap feature, and I'm going to start selecting the minus button until I get that design, the two rows closer together, closing in that design, that gap. Okay. Now, if I think I've got it good, because I'm noticing that this gap is about the same as this gap down here, which is inside the design itself, then I'm going to zoom out of this by selecting my refresh button down here at the bottom of my screen. And that way I can see it from afar and see if I can now see the distinction of where my rows are meeting. Now, I see a little bit of concern right here. It looks like it might have gotten it too close together. So I'm going to zoom into this area right here and just check it out. And I haven't. It's still fine. So I'm not going to change my gap. And come back and hit that refresh button again at the bottom of my screen. Now that I have fixed that gap in between my rows, I now am going to go back to the horizontal repeats and add another repeat horizontally to this design. Now I can see that it's barely going outside the edges of my design, and it's actually not going all the way out to the edges of my area top to bottom. So to fix both of those things, and there's no circles in my design, I'm going to come over here to stretch, select stretch horizontally. So watch what happens to the sides of my quilt. They shrink in. Then I'm going to go to vertical and watch the top and the bottom of my quilt when I select stretch here. When I select stretch here, it took it and it stretched it all the way to the pink lines at the top and the bottom of my area. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I'm going to now baseline this design, and then I'm going to go to File, Save, Selected. I'm going to go find that folder I like to save my quilts in. Whoops, did not mean to do that. I'm going to come down here to that folder that I created called Kelley. I'm going to click into the name of the box, clear it out, and name it Test 6 and hit Save. Now, if I need to go and retrieve this, I can go back up here to File, Design, and Open. I can go and find my Kelley folder again. And then I can look in alphabetical order and look for that Test 6. There it is. I could select it and open it up, and I will be opening that quilt back up for myself. Okay. So this right here is how you create an edge-to-edge design. Are there any questions about this? If there's no questions about this, then we're going to go on to doing a wonky block or setting up a 4-point area.
Kelly, you have a question?
I do? Okay.
Kai, you want to unmute yourself, please?
Hi there. So after you baseline, are you able to use undo?
Yes, you are. And I will tell you a perfect example of when I've had to undo baselining something. So there have been times, and it would be very hard for me to duplicate that right now because it would have to be a luck of a draw. There are times where I will create an edge-to-edge design, and I will use the crop feature to crop out the stitches outside my area. And once I baselined it, sometimes weird things happen to where I have starts and stops in the middle of my quilt that wasn't there before I baselined it. Or sometimes it creates this long stitch line that goes outside my area at the top of my quilt. It's like the craziest thing. And when that happens, you can't leave it like that because it's going to stitch that, and we don't want that. So I have to undo that crop feature or that baselining that I've done and redo and tweak my design before I crop it again. When this happens, the only way I can explain why it happened is that somehow the way we placed the design in our area and when we selected crop, it did not like where it was at. It confused the digitizing system of this, and it did some wonky stuff to it. So when things like that happen, I might undo everything. I'm going to redo that. I might undo it to where there's not a baseline, and I might come up here to modify and go to reposition. And when these kinds of things happen, I use this nudge feature, and I actually nudge it until I can see that the top of my design is actually inside my quilt area. And sometimes even the left edge of my design is inside my quilt area. Okay. And then I might use that crop feature again and baseline, and usually that fixes that weirdness that happened when I used the crop feature and it created more stops and ends inside my quilt, or it's created some long stitch line outside my area, okay? But yes, you can undo it once you select baseline, okay? Are there any other questions before we move on? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is clear this all out, and we are going to go and set up a block area design, a multi-point design, or like if you were custom quilting a quilt and you were just doing little sections of a block, that's when you're going to use the multi-point area. So I'm going to first move my needle to the first point of that block that I want to set an area in, and then I'm going to select multi-point. Now, when I am using multi-point, I don't just give it 4 points, especially if it's a square. I give it way more multi-points than just the 4 corners. The more multi-points you give it of showing it where the edge, where that seam is in this block, the more accurate it's going to be when you bring in a design. Let's face it, none of us are perfect piecers. And we might have even laid our quilt top on our frame a little wonky and not realized it. And our squares are not going to be perfect squares. Okay, so if our seam might slightly be going up at the top of our block, we need to represent that by giving it more multi-points so it can actually see the actual true size and shape of our block. So I will give it multiple multi-points. So I'm just going around my pretend block that we have here and giving it an accurate view, an accurate actual setting of the shape and size of my block. Now, you can notice that it's already closed in that, but I would continue giving it multi-points so that if it's not perfect, this is going to know it. Okay, so now I'm going to move my crosshair out of the way so you can see. So there's my block that I want to bring a design in and sew out on, okay? What I'm going to do now is go and find a design to put in here. I'm going to go to my blocks designs right here, and I'm just going to select this block 16 and open it up. Now, I have it set to where when it opens up a design, it always opens up the start point on the start point of my design. So if I were to have my crosshair in the center of this block, it would have opened it up there. But since my crosshair is way up here, that's where it's going to bring my design in on my screen. Okay. That's no big deal. If you want to use the select option right here in your toolbar, you can select it and then move your design into it, or you cannot move your design into it. And once you use some of your editing features, it will plop that design into your block. Okay. So now that I have my design pulled in, I have my area set, I'm going to go to the Modify tab, and I'm going to select the Skew feature right here. This Skew feature is like a wonderful feature to have. Now, on this particular design, it might not be fantastic because we have circles, and when you use Skew and you have circles, sometimes they don't stay circles. We're just going to see what happens with this design, okay? So I'm going to select Skew, and when I do that, you can come over here and you can see that I have a couple of different options. I have this Skew, and then I have border Skew. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that 90% of the time, the border Skew is what's going to work. I'm going to select the first option first just to see what happens. And you can see that it skewed my design and put it in the box for me, but it does not look right. Okay, so I'm going to now select border Skew and see what happens. And when I selected border Skew, it now has skewed my design into that block and made it look correct. Okay, now what is the difference between Skew and border Skew? It is the shape of your actual block. It's if it has concave or convex edges to it, okay? And again, the border Skew is what works out most of the time for us, okay? Now you're going to see that down here, there's also this triangle Skew. I'll show you that in just a second. The triangle Skew is grayed out right now because when you are setting an area to use triangle Skew, you can only set 3 points. You cannot set a bunch of different points to do a triangle and use the triangle Skew option, okay? So right now, after I've skewed this, I'm going to baseline this design, okay? If I'm happy with it, then I can just go to the ProStitcher tab and sew it out real quickly. But I want to show you a few other things while we're under the Modify tab real quick. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pull in something different. Let's see. What do I want to pull in? Let's pull in this block of lines, okay? Now, I'm doing this just to show you the different options down here under Modify and what they're used for. So I told you I was going to show you earlier that a line you have to have an area set for, and I was told it wasn't set earlier, and so a line was grayed out. So now that we have an area set, I want to show you how to use this align feature. When you select a line, you can come over here and you can tell it to take this design and align it with the area horizontally on the left-hand side. And I'm going to select that. And you're going to see that what it did was it took my design and lined it up on the left-hand side of my area. Now, if I want it to actually be inside this block, I would then come to the vertical and select top, and it would put it aligned in the top part. Now, it's outside my area because my area is not perfect right now. Therefore, it's doing the best that it can with the area that I have given it. If I am happy with what it looks like so far, I could now come to Skew and select border Skew, and it's going to correctly fill in that area now to the best of its ability with the size of with the shape of the area that we have, okay? So you can see that if we were actually going to quilt this onto a quilt, we're probably not going to like that this line right here is showing and this line is here showing, but there isn't anything you can do about that. You need to become a better piecer. That's all I can say. So, but that's how you use the align feature. It aligns according to the area. It takes your design and aligns according to the area. Okay, this is different than reposition. When you're using reposition, you're repositioning the design to your crosshair. So if I were to right now to tell it to, well, I don't know why it aligned it right there when I selected start point. That doesn't make sense. But if I were to select top left, you'll notice that it took my design and it aligned it with my crosshair at the top left hand corner of my crosshair. Okay, but if I wanted it to align at the bottom right part of that design, it's going to jump up here and align it to the top left hand, top right, bottom right. I'm sorry, I'm getting my words twisted. It's going to align it with the bottom right side of my design. Okay. So they're totally different things with reposition and align. Again, when you have the reposition selected, this is also where you can use a nudge. And earlier I nudged a design that we had that was an edge to edge that was slightly, something weird was happening when we used the crop feature. Let me just do this again. And now let me come to reposition. So right now with reposition, it's going to now nudge my design. Whoops, I don't know why I did that. Goodness gracious alive. Oh, I know why it did that. I needed to select baseline. See, weird things happen when you don't do things in the right order. So that's when I realized, oh, I should have hit baseline. I didn't know I needed to hit baseline, but when that happened, I then did realize it. So now I can start nudging this design, and it's going to nudge it from where it's at just a little bit at a time until I can get it where I exactly want it, okay? And I know this is not exactly what we would do with this design. I'm just trying to show you what these features do, okay? So again, I, for a long time, would get confused with the difference between reposition and align. So I hope that I've cleared that up for you just a little bit. Now, one of the buttons that we haven't touched on is rotate. Rotate is where you can take your design and rotate it at 45-degree angles, or you can do it 1 degree at a time, okay? You can mirror image this design and flip this design. This is where you can do all those different kinds of things, okay? We've talked about reposition, resize, crop, align, and skew. The only thing we haven't talked about now is the swap start and end point. This is not a good example to show you why you would use that. Let me close this out real quick and bring in a different design. Let's just say that we have this chest piece right here, okay? And we actually used the rotate feature and we flipped the way it is on the screen. Now, this is not also a great example of a design that you would actually flip and mirror image it. But when I did mirror image it, it changed where my start and end points are. And our machines like to sew left to right more than they like to sew right to left. So if I were going to do this across a whole quilt, I would not want it to start on the right-hand side of my quilt. I would want it to start on the left-hand side. So this is an example of when I would want to use that swap, where it swaps my start and end point so that that start point is on the left-hand side of my quilt or the left-hand side of my design. Okay. Is there any questions about anything underneath the Modify tab?
Brenda has a question. Brenda, you want to unmute yourself, please? Brenda, you want to unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I was getting a funky noise. Okay, let's say you want to do, you got the chess pieces. Let's say you want to do one, you got to go in this way, and then you want to add to it, but reverse it. How do you do that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let me play for just a second. I think what I would do first is add the repeats that I want of it. So let's say you wanted 3 repeats going across. Oh, not vertically, but across. Hold on. Okay, so I would first just add my repeats, and I would need to baseline it, because if you don't baseline it, it's looking at it as 3 separate designs and not one continuous design, okay? So I'm going to baseline it, and then I would go to the modify and the rotate option, and I could flip it here. Am I answering what you're asking, Brenda?
Can you do it like 2 different sets? Like, you know, how you had an individual set. Can you do like one set going left to right and then flip it all in the same row? The
Oh,
design?
yes, you can. Give me
Or
just
like
a second.
add 2 rows, add 2 edge to edge rows together?
You could do that with the same exact design. It would be hard to do different designs and do that because their start and end points have to be on the same X and Y axis. But
Okay.
let me try to show you what you're saying, what you're asking about, because this is a good question. So let me just undo until I only have 1 repeat. Okay, and I'm going to baseline that repeat real quick. Then I'm going to bring in another one of those chess pieces. Okay, and I'm going to flip it real quick. Okay, now in order to join these pieces together, I'm going to select the first, oh, wait, you know what? Let me baseline. Oh, it's already baselined. Okay. I'm going to select this first design and let me think for just a second. I'm going to move my crosshair to the end point of the first design. Okay. And then I'm going to select this design and I'm going to go ahead and swap the start and end real quick. Okay. And then I'm going to tell it to align to my crosshair with the start point of that design. And what that just did was it connected these two designs together. And I could baseline it right now. I'd have to select all down here at the bottom, and then I could baseline this. And now that's one design. And then if I wanted to do repeats of that, I could now come over here and make repeats of it. And it's still one big long design, but I would have to baseline it once I finish doing however many repeats I want to do.
Okay,
Did
that's
that help?
exactly yep, that's exactly what I wondered. Thank you.
Okay. While we're talking about that, I want to show y'all one other thing that she has made come to my mind doing this. So let's say, I just kind of contradicted myself. I told y'all I didn't know if you could connect different designs together, but I do know you can. I don't know why. I had a brain fart here. I'm going to select the cement truck right here. And I'm again going to go and use the reposition and tell it to reposition to the end point of my design on this truck with my with my needle or my crosshair. Then I'm going to baseline this and I'm going to bring in another design that's a different truck. I know we got more trucks. There's a dump truck. Okay. And I'm going to open up this design and well, darn it, it automatically did it for me. You see how it automatically opened up at the start point of my crosshair when I open this design up? That's because I have it set in the settings to do that. But let's just say it didn't open up there. What I would do now is go to the modify and reposition and tell this design to line up the start point with my crosshair like this. And it will pop it down there to this truck's stop end point. And then I could select both of these and I could baseline that and I've created one design with that. But I could continue to add more and more to it. I just always have to line my crosshair up with the end point of the first design and then tell the second design to line up at the start point so that it connects the start and ends together. Is that cool?
Now you're going to have me playing all afternoon.
Yeah, well, just remember when you start playing that it's important to figure out when and where to use a baseline, because if you don't, weird things happen. And unfortunately, I can't sit here and go through every step and tell you every single scenario when you use baseline. Using baseline is kind of a learning process of learning from your mistakes and learning from playing with it, but have fun with it. So that is some more, there you go. That was a little bit more advanced. I usually don't even show y'all this when I do this training. So y'all are got some advanced cookies in here. Okay, so I'm going to clear this out and let me look at my notes real quick because I can't remember what we have and haven't done. Okay, let's look at one more thing under the modify tab real quick. Okay, so let's say that we want to only use this piece of the chest, okay? We can use the crop feature and delete all the rest of this design if we want to. This is also how you can create new designs. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my crosshair and I'm going to move it to right before that chest piece. So right here, okay? And I'm going to place a new start point right there by going to ProStitcher, new start and end, and on the start column over here, I'm going to select the auto button twice. Now I want to explain to you why you have to select it twice. The first time you select auto, what it does is it takes that green start circle and it connects it to your crosshair. And if you move your crosshair, it moves with your crosshair. And it will not plant itself in place until you deselect that auto button. So that's why you have to select it twice. You select it the first time to attach to your crosshair. You select it the second time so that it plops that start point where you have it at and it doesn't move. Now what I'm going to do is move my needle or my crosshair to the place at the end of that chest piece and select the end auto button twice. And now it's put an endpoint right here for me. So I have a start and an endpoint. Now what I want to do is get rid of the rest of that design. So I'm going to go up to modify. And this is one of those times where you're not going to baseline before you crop, because if you were, when you baseline, it takes those start and endpoints and puts them back where they originally were on this design. And we do not want it to do that. So right now I'm going to go to crop, and I'm going to come over here to where it says start and end. And I'm going to select the start and end. And now it's cropped everything before the start point that I created and after the end point I created. Now at this point, I would then want to baseline that design. Is that not cool? So there's another thing under the Modify tab that you can do with your designs. I've used this many a times. I created a quilt one time that was houses, and I put white blocks in between some of the houses. And in those white blocks, I put like trees and stuff inside of them. And if you'll notice, we have some tree designs in our edge-to-edge quilting. Let me scroll down real quick and show you one of them. So like right here, this moose and pine, and I might have taken this design and then I created a start and end point before and after that pine and deleted everything else, like because I didn't want the moose in between houses. I just wanted this pine tree. So a great example of why you would want to use this start and end crop feature. Okay. Any other questions right now? If there isn't, I want to go to another thing to talk to y'all about. So when you're under the ProStitcher tab, besides just telling your machine to start sewing, you have a couple of other things you can tell your quilt to do. Tell your machine to do. You see this move feature right here? What this move feature does is it will start sewing in any of these directions without you having to do anything with your machine but press the button. It'll just start sewing in that direction. Now, when would you use this? I'm going to tell you when you would use this. Let's say that you have laid your quilt top on your frame, and unfortunately, you've got a lot of waves in the top of your quilt, okay, because something wasn't square about it. And so you're going to need to kind of manipulate your fabric as you are tacking down your quilt top onto your frame. So I might use this move feature and slow it down drastically to like 5. You don't want to slow it down all the way to 1, you'll get a motor error. But I might slow it down all the way to 5 and then tell it to start sewing right to left. That way I can have my hands completely free to manipulate my fabric while it's sewing that down so that I can try not to get a pucker or a pleat in my quilt top. And I can manipulate that fabric as it's sewing it down for me. That's the times when I use the move feature. I'm sure that other people can tell you different reasons of why they use the move feature, but that is really the only time that I use it. Okay. Now, another thing that there is under here is the record feature. The record feature can do 2 different things for you. One, you could select record and then start quilting with your quilt, and you can record whatever it is you're quilting and save it, and you've created a new design just by sewing. So that's one thing you can use with the record feature. The other thing you can do, and it's my favorite feature on this whole program, is use the mark feature. And let me talk to you about that. See the mark feature right here? What the mark feature does is everywhere I place my needle, if I select the mark, it creates a stitch point for me. So I can move my needle again and select mark, and now it's created a full stitch line. And I could create mark and select mark again. And this is how you can create your own stitch lines, okay? It does not do curves, it only does straight lines. What I love to use the mark feature for is stitch in the ditch. I do not like using rulers if I don't have to. And so typically people use a straight edge ruler when they're doing stitch in the ditch. But if you have a ProStitcher, you can use the mark feature. And what you would do is place your needle at this, the seam of the stitch in the ditch that you're wanting to stitch in the ditch in, select mark, and then continue moving it down that seam line. And this is where it's perfect because you can even make that stitch line not straight, just like your seam might be, so that your stitching in the ditch is perfect. And that's what I love about this mark feature. And when I'm custom quilting, I literally use this all the time. Okay. So that is an awesome feature that a lot of people don't even realize we have that's there. Now, if you have a Quiltmaker Pro 20, not only can you use this mark feature, but you can use one of the buttons on your handlebar to mark your mark features with, where you don't have to press it on your screen. And right now, I can't remember which one it is, but when your tablet knows you have a 20, it will tell you that the mark feature is either the diamond or the, what's the other button on our handlebars? There's a diamond and there's a,
There's a star, right?
I think a star, yeah. And I think the mark, whichever one is on the right handlebar is the one it is the mark feature. But that's a really awesome way of quickly marking your stitches and your stitch in the ditch, okay? So is there any questions right now on the record or move feature or the mark feature?
Diamond is on the right, 20.
Thank you so much. So that's also the one that will tell you to mark. And it would tell you on your screen on your tablet. It would show that it's a diamond for mark and a star for record. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no other questions, let me see what I want to talk about next. Okay, let's talk about moving designs into our tablet. So I know that all of us go to, you know, urbanaelements.com or Designs by Vicky or Ann Bright, and we go and buy edge-to-edge designs from these people, because let's face it, there's not an edge-to-edge design built into this ProStitcher for every quilt out there that we might want to quilt. And I have literally bought thousands of designs. So you can bring each design in individually and save it to a folder on your tablet, or you can take a whole folder of designs that you have on your USB stick that you've bought and move all of those designs at one time into your tablet. And I'm going to show you how to do both, okay? So right now I have a USB stick in my computer and it has a ton of designs on it. If I were to only want to go get one of those designs off that USB stick and save it to a folder on my ProStitcher tablet, this is how you do that. You go to Design, you go to File, then you go to Design, and you go to Open. When you go to Open, instead of looking at your C drive, you're going to scroll down until you see your D drive down here. Your D drive is your USB stick. Okay, then you would have to select the folder that you have a design in that you want to pull out and use for the day. So I'm just going to take this 30s Flowers Light and select it and select Open. It automatically opens it up into your screen. What I would do from this point, if I wanted to save it to a folder in my ProStitcher, I would go to Save, Selected. I would go to my C drive and my design folders. And I would find the folder that I want to save that in, which I'm just going to save it to the Kelley folder. And I'm not going to change the name of it because it's the actual name of the design and I want to remember that. And I would select Save. Now, unfortunately, I just happen to pick a design that I already have saved in here. You can see it above here. So if it's already got a name, I would either rename it or I would just let it override that existing design and replace it. Now, every single time I want to go get that design, I don't have to put my USB stick into my computer. I can just go to that folder that I saved that design in called Kelley, and I can go find that design right here and open it up. Okay. Now, if I wanted to take a folder of designs and move the whole folder into my ProStitcher design folder, this is what you do, okay? It's a little bit more trickier. You're going to minimize your ProStitcher program, okay? And you're going to go to where you can see your C and D drive on your actual tablet itself. Okay. So I'm going to come to the little 4 square Windows icon, and I'm going to come up here to Documents. And when I go to Documents, I can now see my C and D drive right here. Okay, there's my C drive, here's my D drive. And if I wanted to take this whole folder named Quilt that has 1,000 designs in it, I could take this folder, y'all are gonna have to follow me here, and I would bring it up to my C drive, and then I would look for this folder called Designs right here. And all I would do is drop it into that folder, and it's gonna put that whole folder of designs into my design folder for my ProStitcher. Okay, now this is coming up because I've already done this before, and this typically wouldn't come up unless you have already put these designs into your design folder. So I'm not going to actually put them in there since I've already done it, but I'm going to show you where it is now on my folder. So we've just transferred our designs. I'm going to go back into my ProStitcher program. I'm going to go to File, Design, and Open. And under my C drive right here, I'm going to go look for a folder called Quilt. And they're all in alphabetical order. And there it is. There are all the designs that I just pulled into this all at one time in one fine swoop. I did not have to move 240 designs into this program one at a time. Is that cool or what? Are there questions about what I just showed you?
Brenda has a question.
Okay.
Brenda, you want to ask?
Okay, sorry to bother you, but I'm more familiar with doing embroidery, okay?
Okay.
To where you have to have certain pegs, like the Jeff peg and different things. When you're looking for a design online to download for your Longarm, do I have to look for certain extensions or not? I'm not
First
done
of
yet.
all, okay, first of all, you're not bothering me. You're asking great questions, so keep on asking. But yes, you do. If you'll look right here on my screen where it says HQF, HQV, QLI, those are the design formats that it reads. I always, when I go and buy designs, I just download the QLI because it's the most common. A lot of different brands and machines also will read QLI, and every single designer has a QLI file. So that's the one that I always download and put onto my USB stick to import into my ProStitcher.
And what were the websites that you mentioned a while ago? I was trying to write them down and I wasn't fast enough. And where you
Okay.
get a lot of your designs?
Well, there's a lot of them. Just to name a few, there's one it's got a ton of designs on it called Urban Elements. And Elements has a Z on the end instead of an S, and it's urbanelements.com. There's one called AnnBrightDesigns.com, I believe, or you can just Google Ann Bright and it'll pull up her website. There's Designs by Deb. There are Designs by Vicky, and that's spelled Vickie. There's One Song Needle Designs, I believe is what it's called. But seriously, if you go and Google long arm quilting digital designs, you're going to see probably 100 different websites you can purchase from.
Honestly, everyone you just mentioned are the ones that come up automatically. And I just wanted to make sure that they were good sites. That's why I was asking.
I've bought from all of those sites, so yes. Great questions, Brenda. Thank you very much. Okay,
Thank
are there
you.
any other questions right now so far? Okay, if they're not, I want to talk to you about how to actually create a folder in here. Okay, so when I want to create a folder that's going to be with all my other design folders, I'm going to first minimize the designs to where I don't see all these folders right here, and all I see is designs and it's green. Okay, when that's green, I can then come up here to where I can put my cursor over this little file folder that says new folder, and I can select new folder. And I can name this folder, and I'm going to name it Pro, okay? So I'm going to create a folder named Pro, and I'm going to select Create. And now I have created a new folder that I can see if I go in alphabetical order. And Oop, it didn't show up because you know what? You have to back out first. So let me close this real quick. And now if I go to design and open and I scroll down, I'm going to see that pro folder now. There it is. There's my pro folder and it's empty because I have not put any designs into it. Now, if I accidentally created a folder and I don't want it anymore, or I have a folder in here that has a ton of designs in it, but I've reorganized things in it and I don't want that one and I want to replace it with a different one, you can select the folder that you want to delete and you come up here to this little folder with an X on it and delete that folder. It's going to ask you, are you sure? And you'll say yes, and then that folder disappears forever. Okay. Is that not cool? That's really cool. Are there any questions?
Sorry. And as a reminder, everything that was in that folder is gone.
Correct. Yes. So that is how you can create and delete folders inside your ProStitcher tablet. Okay.
Catherine, you have a question? You want to unmute yourself, please?
Yes, so if I, like third person, if somebody would have created a folder, but it's as a subfolder, can that one be moved out of the subfolder and put
Ooh.
into the alphabetical where you're showing it here?
I don't know. Let's see. I don't know. Hold on. Let me go to one of the subfolders on here and see. So
That's where mine actually, I accidentally saved it underneath there.
yeah, I don't think you can because I can't figure out how you would do that. No, you can't. Oh, you know what? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I lied. So in order to do that, you would have to actually get out of your program and go to where you can see the folders on your drive right here. Okay. And then I could come to this folder where I have extras and I could take this triangle and I could move it. See how it says move to designs?
Yes.
And I can move it again if I wanted to. So that's how you do that. So I lied.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you. I'll try that.
Okay. Sometimes I don't know the answer and I apologize. I just have to think for a minute. But a lot of times I don't know the answer. Let's clear that up. Okay. So that's saving and importing designs and creating folders. Okay, so let's talk about how to update your ProStitcher. Okay. Now, first of all, I have unprofessional but videos. They're unprofessional videos because I didn't have them like done at Janome, but I did them at my home. I created this 3 different videos that you can view on our Facebook group that shows you step by step how to do this. But I'm going to try to run through it real quick. Okay. Speaking of, if any of y'all don't know about our Facebook group, you need to join it. It's called Janome Longarm Users. We teach every other week on their live classes. All of those classes are pre-recorded where you can go back and watch them. Not pre-recorded, they're recorded, and you can go back and watch them at any time that you need to. I feel like it's a wealth of knowledge, and there's all kinds of other stuff on that Facebook page too. But it's also a great page for you to go to, especially if it's the weekend, because I usually turn my work phone off on the weekends, but I will still troll Facebook and see if anybody needs help. And if they post on that Facebook group, hey, my run button's grayed out, I don't know what to do, I will start messaging them, and other people will too, and they'll be like, oh, I can tell by looking at your screen you don't have stitch highlighted. That's all your problem is. And people help each other on that. So Facebook is not the devil. So if you're against Facebook, just go create you a Kelley Janome Facebook person or Brenda Janome, and that way you can just use it for that Facebook group and nobody else knows who you are. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. Okay, so how to update your ProStitcher tablet. So first of all, you would want to come to this page right here called ProStitcher.com. ProStitcher.com is a wealth of knowledge also, okay? So when you come here, you've got all these tabs across the top. If you have a ProStitcher, you're going to always want to come to this ProStitcher tab, and then you'll want to look underneath it, and you'll want to go to software to be able to do any kind of update. So I'm going to select software. Here it is. It automatically, if you scroll down, you'll see that it has latest version right here, and that's the one you're always going to want to download, okay? But let's talk about a few other things that are confusing on this page. You have all these tabs across the top. Premium, premium beta, light, light beta, standard, classic. The only one you need to be concerned with is this premium tab. Do not worry about the rest of them unless you have ProStitcher Lite, okay? Just go to the premium and come down here and click on this latest version. You're going to see that when you click on it, it says all brands because it doesn't care if you are a Janome user, a Baby Lock user, a Handy Quilt user, a King Quilter user. It doesn't care. All the brands have the same update, okay? When you come to this update, you'll just click on it and you'll see that it's downloading to my computer right now, okay? And when it gets through downloading, is when we would have to do a couple of extra steps to it to get it actually onto our tablet. But while it's downloading, I want to just show you a few other things here. If you'll scroll down, you're going to see that there's release notes. These release notes tell you what this update has changed on your ProStitcher tablet. The new features it might have added, the things it might have fixed. Some of these will apply to you and some of these will not apply to you because some of these will be for certain types of machines and not just all machines, okay? So once you've gone through reading all of this, I always print this out when we get a new update so that I can have it on hand because sometimes updates will cause us to have to do procedures in different ways than we used to do them, okay? So it's good to have this pulled out. Then below that, it will tell you known issues that we already know about with this update that happened, and it'll tell you how to work around those issues that you might come across. So this is so much good information right here that you need to know, okay? So I've downloaded this to my computer. Now I've got to go to where it downloaded onto my computer, okay? So, oops, I just clicked out of it. Let me go back to it. I'm going to go to my documents and I'm going to go to the folder that says downloads right here. And there's where I downloaded that update, okay? Now, from this point, right now, I can tell that this is a zipped file, and you cannot put a zipped file on a USB stick and update your tablet. So you have to click into this update and tell it to extract the files in it. It's going to ask you, where do you want to extract it out? I'm going to let it just extract it back out to my downloads folder that it was already inside of and select OK. Now, your computer might not do it exactly like mine does, so please be aware that your steps might be a little bit different, okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come to my download folders, which I'm already there, and I can see here's where it unzipped it because now it looks like a file folder and not this like box up here, okay? And it doesn't say zipped up beside it like this one does. I can even see over here that it says zipped, but this one says file folder. What I would do now is I would take this file folder and I would move it to my USB stick, my removable USB stick, which is my D drive right now. And I would drop it onto that USB stick, okay? It's telling me right now there's not enough space on this. So let me do something real quick. Let me see if I can make me some space. Okay, so I just tried to make me some space. I'm going to go back to my downloads folder. Here's that folder again that I want, that file that I want to move, and I'm going to try to, again, drop it onto my USB stick. And there's still not enough space. Gosh, golly, I don't want to delete my quilt folder, but I'm going to. I know that that's what's causing it because there's like a gazillion folder designs in that folder. So let's just give it a second to delete it because I really do want to show y'all and help y'all learn how to update your ProStitcher. Okay. Now and now it's on my D drive right there. I'm going to delete it real quick. We're going to do that over again so that y'all see what happens. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my downloads folder where that update is that I need to move to my D drive. And I'm going to make it to where I can see my D drive right here. I'm going to take this folder and I'm going to drag it to my USB stick, my D drive, and drop it on there. Oh my goodness. I don't know what else to do. This jump stick is almost completely empty. Okay. Okay. Let me confuse y'all just a little bit more. Let me go back to my downloads folder. Okay. I'm sorry if I have confused y'all. I apologize tremendously. Here's that folder again that I've unzipped and I want to put onto my USB drive. So I'm going to drag it down here to my USB drive and drop. Okay, we're not going to do it because obviously my USB stick's just not even big enough anyway. That's as big. I've deleted everything off of it. Oh my goodness. Hold on. This is embarrassing. I apologize. Let me see if I have another USB stick that's bigger than that. I don't know if I do. Okay, this one might be big enough. Okay, so let me go back to that downloads folder one more time. And let me take that design folder, I mean, not design folder, that update folder, and let me move it to my USB stick right here. Yes! Okay, so there was enough space on that. Good grief. Okay, so it's copying that update onto my USB drive. After it gets done doing that, I would then take my USB stick out of my computer and go and put it in the hub behind my tablet, okay? And once you put it on your hub behind your tablet, I'm going to show you what to do. Okay, it's moved it to my USB stick. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my ProStitcher program. And again, I have now taken that USB stick and stuck it in the USB port in the hub behind my tablet. There's two ports. It does not matter which one you put it in. Okay. And I'm going to go to File and Update. And it automatically finds this update right here. All I have to do is click on it. Let me move this little. Click on it and select Run. When I select Run, it will then start prompting me to do the update. I'm just going to select Start, Confirm. It's updating. There should be a screen that pops up. It might not on this one since I'm in simulation mode that says what machine type do you have, and you'll tell it that you have a QMP 18 or a QMP 20 or a QMP 16. Okay. Once it's finished, you're going to select Close. It's going to automatically reboot this program. But let me tell you, that is not good enough. Once it's rebooted, I want you to go to File, Shut Down, and completely shut down your tablet. Shut down your entire system, unplug your carriage from the wall because it does not have an on-off switch. Wait a full minute, plug everything back in, turn everything back on, and then you can proceed with using your ProStitcher tablet. But it has to have a completely hard reboot after you do an update. Sometimes if you don't, weird glitches will happen, okay? So are there any questions or did I confuse you royally on updating your ProStitcher tablet? Here's another question I get. When do we know that there's an update? Well, good question. I go and check the website periodically to see if there's an update. And then if I find an update, I will go onto the Facebook group and post, hey, there's an update for ProStitcher, go download it. So that's how you go to see if there is an update. Now, I want to go back to ProStitcher real quick and talk to you about a few more things that's on this website. If you wanted to get some educational material on how to do different things, you can click on their education, whoops, and you can see that they have video content right here that you can click on and watch. And if you keep scrolling down, they also have PDF files that you can download and print out where you have written directions for you also. This is so wonderful and important for y'all to take advantage of because there might be something I didn't teach you today that you need to know about, and you can come here and also learn. We also yes.
I have a question for you, Kelly.
Yeah.
These tutorials that you just showed, How often do they update that?
I don't know.
I thought I asked you. Okay.
I don't work for ProStitcher. I don't know when they update stuff. I really don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's a good question though. But I want to show y'all another place y'all can go. So if you go to YouTube and you go to Janome's YouTube page. Oh goodness, let me stop that. Okay, and you go to the playlist. I'm going to show you some new things that we've added. Right here, there is Longarm tutorials with Kelley McKenzie. These are lives from our Facebook group that we have now put on our YouTube page. They are not all of them because we have like 30 lives that we've done, and there's only like maybe 8 or 10 right now added because we just started this. But it's a great way, if you don't want to go on Facebook, for you to be able to watch some of the more important videos that we've created, okay? Like, I can't teach you how to do drag and drop on simulation mode over the computer like this, but here's a great video on it, okay? Drag and drop is one of the most confusing things for people to learn, so go watch this video. Now, look at the other things that we have on here. We also have, with Joanna Marsh, she has some videos using the Quiltmaker Pro 20 you can watch. If you keep scrolling down, you're going to see that we have the Quiltmaker Pro 16 tutorials. Now, those are good even if you don't have a 16, because in these videos, I also show you how to use all the different feet that we sell, okay? So just because it's not your machine doesn't mean it's not a good videos for you to watch. We have Quiltmaker Pro 18 tutorials. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, some of these tutorials need to be updated, and as soon as we have someone that does videos for us again at Janome, we will redo some of those videos. But right now, some of those are a little outdated. We also have a playlist for the Quiltmaker Pro 20. For some reason, I'm not seeing it, but we have one. Where is it? Did I just like not see it? Oh, there it is. Quiltmaker Pro 20 with Kelley McKenzie. We have 22 videos right there. So here's another place for you to also come and get a wealth of knowledge if you need more help past what I've taught you today, or what you can learn on your own. Also, you can always go to YouTube and just put in the search engine ProStitcher videos, and you're going to see videos made by a gazillion people, and they're all great and wonderful, and they all could help you, okay? So, are there any other questions about today? Because I think I've covered everything that I normally cover in this class.
Okay, you got a question? You want to unmute yourself, please?
Hi, Kelly. I don't know if this is a question appropriate for this setting, but why and how would you, I'm sorry, my question just went right out of my head. Lower the speed of your machine?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So let me go back to my ProStitcher tablet. So, if you are, let me just see right here. Yes, right here. So if you go into your settings and you select OptiStitch, this is where you can slow your machine down or speed it up. You would select customize, because if you don't, then it's just going to automatically be at 100%. So you would select customize, and this is actually what I have my machine settings on. I have acceleration at 40 and speed percentage at 60, because sometimes if you have it sewing too fast, you're going to get a message on your screen that says buffer motor underflow. And that's because your machine it's not, the communication for what it needs to do is not traveling fast enough, and it can't keep up, if that makes sense. So this is where you would go again, settings, OptiStitch, select customize, and then you can come over here and change your speed. That's a great question. Are there any other questions?
And so why would you do this?
Why would I change my speed?
Why would you lower the speed?
For the exact thing I said. What if you're getting the buffer motor underflow error message? You would want to slow it down. Or here's another reason. If you're doing a design that is extremely intricate and has lots of little points coming in and out, you're going to want to slow it down, because it will slow smoother and more accurately at a slower speed when it's doing really intricate designs.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
Lynn Smith, you have a question?
Yes. What you just did today, is that going to be someplace on YouTube or on the education part so that we can see it again? I'm really computer illiterate and I haven't got to see anything. I just got to hear.
Oh, you didn't get to see anything? I'm so sorry.
It's
So-
not your fault. It's mine.
So hold on, let me stop this. I think we already have some on here that from the last time we've done it, but we are recording this one and we can upload it. No, it's not on here. So what I will do is I will have them upload it to this YouTube page under tutorials with Kelley.
Okay.
It might not happen today, because we kind of are sometimes slow to move on things. But I will get it put on this YouTube page. It's also already on our Facebook page
Okay.
for the long arms. Okay.
Yeah.
It's in the
Okay.
guide section.
Thank you so much. Like I said, it's me. I'm just not computer literate, and came in late because it wouldn't come on this machine. You know, it's been a crazy day. But thank you very much.
I completely understand. The last time me and Mario did a team meets on here with just some coworkers, it took 30 minutes for me to realize that my mic was muted. So I get it.
Thank you so much.
Catherine, you got a question? You want to unmute yourself, please?
Yes, back to the changing the speed on the machine. If you change the acceleration, should you also change that speed? So should you change both of them?
If your machine's sewing too fast for you, then yes, absolutely.
Okay, so is there a ratio that they should be?
Well, I showed you where I have mine because this has been a happy place for my machine. It's keeping the acceleration on 40, but changing the speed percentage to 60. That is 90% of the time what I sew with my machine on, and it seems to do very well at that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeanette, you got a question? You want to unmute yourself, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
My question is, when I do an edge-to-edge design, why can I not save it under selected? It saves it under workspace.
Are you hold on, let me pull something up. So you go to file and you go to save right here and it won't let you.
No, I don't. The selected is not, it's not there. There's only workspace. Yeah.
Did you,
There may be an old version and she has to update.
No, it's a brand new machine, and the ProStitcher is at the 21 point such and such numbers. It's a brand new machine.
I'm stumped. I don't know. So will you do me a favor and will you email me and put that in the email so that I can find that out for you today?
Okay, thank you. And then I have another question.
Okay.
After I based the basting stitch, which is like 0.5, and I tell my ProStitcher to quilt and run, the sewing stitch stays at 0.5. It doesn't automatically bring it to 11 on its own.
Are you going and doing the basting stitch inside the ProStitcher tablet, or are you doing it through your machine screen?
No, inside the tablet.
Okay, put that in there too, because usually you only have that issue if you're using your machine screen and not changing it in here.
No, I was doing it in the ProStitcher, but I have to go change my stitch from 0.5 to 11 before I tell it to run.
Are you turning this basting icon off after you baste?
Maybe not.
Then that's why. That's why.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Any other questions? I do have a question that somebody has texted me because they don't have a microphone on their computer. It says, my question is, can I print the different designs to show customers so they can choose their quilting design for a specific project? Yes, you can. I think though you have to go to ProStitcher.com and download their PDF file of their designs there. Let me look real quick. See if I'm telling you the truth. Let's see.
Ellie, I found all the stitches for the ProStitcher 20. I typed in ProStitcher's catalog, I think it was, and it came up all that way.
On this website?
I just typed it in the search engine,
Oh,
ProStitcher catalog, and that's how I found them the other day. Try that.
okay. Well, I want to see real quick that the great information. I want to just see because I know that there's where you can get it here. I don't go and do this. So, here's also where you can go and get your manual if you'd like. Oh, wait. Yep, here you go. There you go. So what I did was I came to the home button and I went to ProStitcher and went to overview and manuals. I came right down here to where it says PS Premium Design Catalog. I download it to my computer and then I can print it out. I hope she's listening still because she texted me. So, oh, yep, she heard. Okay. So also listen to what the other lady said. She said that she just went into a Google search engine and just did ProStitcher designs for Quiltmaker Pro 20 and she found them there too. So easy ways to find your design catalogs. Are there any other questions?
Holly and Randy, you guys got a question? You want to mute yourself, please?
My question is setting up a design. I know that there's the edge to edge portion, but let's say I had 3 blocks on my quilt and I wanted a different design in each block.
Okay.
Can I pre-do my quilt top in a design and then have it stitch each individual one for me? Or do I have to do them individually?
So yes and no. Okay, so let me explain. So if you wanted to set up 3 blocks, you would have to you can only set one area at a time. So you would have to set up 1 block, baseline it, clear your area, go set a new area for the next block, set that one up, baseline it, clear your area, and then go to your third. However, if you do that, you are risking the chance that the designs are so dense that it changes where your fabric is once it gets to the next block, because our fabric does shrink from quilting and then it's not accurate anymore. So it's not good to quilt more than 1 block at a time, but it can be done.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeanette, you have a question? You want to unmute yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Jeanette. Can you please give me your email, Kelley?
Yes, I can. I was going to do that and I forgot. So
Okay.
let me go right here so that you can see it easily. Where did my email go? It just disappeared on me. Okay, so there's my email address, kmckenzie@janome-america.com. It's right here on the screen.
Okay, thank you. I just took a picture. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
And my cell phone number is also on there. You can text me anytime you need to ask me anything.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So a Leslie Hugo just asked me, is it possible to print a catalog of designs downloaded from other sites? It should be. Each site should have their own catalog for you to click onto and download. But again, I don't know for sure. You'd have to just check with each one. I know that Urban Elements actually has a book you can, I don't know if it's free or if you have to purchase it, but every year at Houston Quilt Show, they will have books in their booth that have all their designs printed in it for you, which is pretty awesome.
Teresa, you have a question? You want to unmute yourself, please?
Hello. On organization of the designs, how do we do that so that we can look at each design by something?
You would have to, why is my ProStitcher disappear? Oh, there it is. You would actually have to like create your own folders, name them things like if you have like geometric designs, name a folder geometric designs and put all your geometric designs in it and then transfer it over here to the ProStitcher tablet. There's not a way for when you're looking at designs in here for you to search for them through like this box down here. This box doesn't do anything. Like if I were to click flowers and hit open, it's not gonna go anywhere. So you would have to, you'd have to do that yourself. I hope I answered that question.
Kelly, when you
Okay.
make your own personal folder, right? Like you have your Kelly folder,
Yeah.
is there a max amount of designs you can put in that folder or no?
I don't know. I've never maxed it out. Good question. I don't know.
Brenda, you have a question? You want to unmute yourself, please?
Kelly, when I went to the demo for the QMB 20, the lady was talking about purchasing something with the ProStitcher. At least I thought it was ProStitcher. And it says something about saving more folders or organizing your folders differently. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yes. So there is, if you go back to, now again, this is not through Janome. Okay. Just want to like, did my computer just freeze? I think I just froze my computer. I did. Okay, so let me try to tell you without having to show you. So if you go to ProStitcher.com, they have a catalog thing that you can purchase now that organizes your designs for you. But it's through ProStitcher.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Okay.
My, I have not done an update, I guess, in 2 years. Do I just do the latest one?
Yes, ma'am, you do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Catherine, you have a question? You want to unmute yourself, please?
Yes. Kelly, when you save your designs as you're doing the particular quilts, is there a reason to keep those designs once that quilt is stitched out because you have your design areas set for that specific design, or can you just delete those?
You can delete those. In fact, I've been told, and I've never asked why, that once we like see all these quilts that I have quilted and they're still on here, that I think it's best that we go in there and delete them if we're not going to use them again. I don't know the reason behind it of maybe it just slows your tablet down possibly. But I think it's a great idea for you to go and delete them. I don't delete designs like that, you know, like these single designs like 30s flowers or bubble
Right.
play, but
Right.
quilts that I've actually quilted and I'm finished with, it's a great idea to go ahead and delete those.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? If there's no other questions, then I want to thank you all for joining us today. I hope that this was helpful. Again, this will be put on our Janome YouTube page. If you need to go back and refer to it. Also, there's already one that's been pre-recorded that is on our Facebook page. Again, that Facebook group is called Janome Longarm Users. If you do go and join it, you do have to answer the questions for you to get into the group, or else she'll just delete it thinking that you're a troll. So make sure you answer those questions. It's a super helpful group. It's actually the easiest way to get in touch with us to get help. So I encourage you all to go and join it if you aren't already. And again, I just thank y'all all today for joining us and being a part of our training today. So if that's it, I'm going to say toodles to all of y'all.
Teresa, you have a question? Oh, I guess not.
Yes, yes, I do. So I missed the first part of the Facebook page. What's the name of it?
Janome Longarm users.
Okay.
If you want to, right before we get off, I'll just show it to you real quick so you know what it looks like.
Yes, that'd be fine. I mean, that'd be great.
This is what it looks like. And if y'all want to go and see our classes that we've done, you go to this guide section right here and you scroll down till you find guide 29. I should have showed y'all this, so I'm showing it to you now before we hang up. There's so much information on here, y'all. So much information. So here's guide 29. Here's where I did the other. Oh no, that's a class that Jenny does. So Jenny teaches on here too. But like here's one I did just a few weeks ago, ProStitcher troubleshooting for consumers. This is an excellent video for y'all to go and watch. But you'll see that there are a ton of videos right here. And again, that's in the guide section and guide 29. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank y'all all for joining us today. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email me or text me if you need to get a hold of us for anything else. Okay. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.